name is Bob Meadows. I work for the city of Shafter. I'm the business development director there. We do have a connection to Shafter here, so we'll talk about that. We've got two amazing young people here who craft things with their hands, and so this sort of came together quickly. This is who we have up here, so we're going to be playing it by ear, but I think you're going to learn a lot. I hope you walk away as impressed as I have been with these two. So let's introduce you to today's guests. So, right over here, Cayenne Gutierrez. Cayenne, she's building an airplane. So she's going to talk about that. To my left, Harjasal Brar. He built this respirator. So we're going to have them talk about this, the origins, and a number of different things. I hope for those of you that understand that there's other ways in this world to earn a living and to create things, and these two have been doing it with their hands, but also a lot of brain work as well, right? So we hope that you'll hear from them. We're going to welcome your questions. If you're shy, then you'll never learn what it is that you want to know. So let me start off, ladies first, with Cayenne, and tell us what you're building, and then let's start out. Tell us what you're building, and then tell us. We'll find out how you got there.
Okay, so what I'm building is a Pete and Pull air camper. That's a 1928 airplane. So the wings are wood, and originally was all built out of wood, and the engine was converted from a Model A. So it's a very old airplane. We're gonna make a couple of changes to the traditional model, but it's, yeah, that's what I'm building.
This is a full-sized airplane. It was first made in 1929. It is the most popular kit in the aviation world. And it will seat two people. It will get to an altitude of 2 miles in the air. Cayenne's still looking for the first volunteers to take that maiden voyage one, so we got 2 of them right there. There you go. And
okay.
If it doesn't work, hey, we'll remember you. But so tell. Okay, here's a young lady building an airplane. It's a full-size one. It's going to have an auto engine in it. That's how it was originally designed. And now she's going to continue to build it in that way. I know you had the help of your dad, Charlie, but tell us how this got created, how one day you go, hey, I think I want to build an airplane.
Well, building stuff has always kind of been in our family. Everybody knew it was, possible to make things. Not just to make things, just anything. It was just, a lot of individual, unique people, and they all made stuff. So my dad made an airplane when he was 20-something. So it's always just been, an idea.
Now you're what? You're one of 13 children, right?
Yep.
That's a guitarist army right there. So, let me ask Arjun. We know that your folks are both physicians or doctors, so I can understand how you think medicine in your family. But tell us how you came about thinking that I need to build a respirator.
So I started work on this design in April of 2020 when I read about the ventilator shortages that occurred all over the world due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When I researched, I found that the main causes of these shortages were 2 major factors. So first is that ventilators currently are really expensive, typically costing between $25,000 and $50,000 just for one device. And the second issue was the lack of manufacturing capacity in order to fill this demand that was needed due to new patients coming in. And in order to solve this problem, I employed 3D printing, as you can see here, since it enables me to produce parts at a large capacity, and for anyone really with a printer to do so, which should help alleviate shortages.
So here's the mouthpiece. Is a respirator that you see in a hospital, is it of this size?
Ventilators typically vary in their size. You can have some that are about this tall. Those are the most common designs made by companies such as Puritan and Bennett. Those ventilators play different roles. You also have some smaller ventilators, typically to go on like ambulances that are about this size and can slide into the side of the car.
So let's have everybody to understand the need for this. I want everybody to hold your breath now and see how long you can do that. We'll wait. As you gasp out, raise your hand for me, okay? I see some of you haven't lasted too long. So imagine that you can't breathe. You understand how critical this is and how during our COVID times, we know that respirators for many people were really critical. And so it's kind of amazing that this young man would do that. Now, your mechanical skills, they appear to be okay. How did you come up with the design? How did you find that? And then tell me how long it took to construct it.
Yeah, so this is actually the second version of the ventilator that I made. Last year I made a larger ventilator, but it was still 3D printed. I designed this ventilator in Fusion 360, which is computer-aided design software. Some of you might have worked with one in your schools actually. This enables me to do a few things. So first is to design parts, but it also lets me simulate the ventilator and to measure air volumes and other features. So that way when I print it out on a 3D printer, I know what it's going to look like and how it's going to behave. So that's a really useful tool.
Now conversely, Cayenne doesn't have a 3D printer to build her phone. So show us this piece of this wing that you've done. Here, I'll hold your mic for a second. I guess I could have got the wing but I'm older. So tell us, okay, this, obviously you start from scratch. So tell us, this will be part of the wing, correct?
Should be.
No, is.
It will, yeah.
What's the entire wingspan?
29 feet.
Okay, 29 feet. So if anybody's 6 feet tall, that's 5 of you laid head to toe across the floor. Well, in this case, it'll be up on the wing, okay? So a 29-foot wingspan, this is one piece of that. What's it made of? How long did it take you to construct this kind of total time?
It's made out of spruce and plywood, so stuff we could just get really easily. It takes like maybe a little more than an hour to build one rib like this, so on a normal, if I'm working hard and doing it normally.
And how many ribs make up a wing?
I believe 33.
Okay, so 33?
I think so.
So we've got 33 of these built by hand. Now, Cayenne started this project with her sister Lucy. But you'll notice Cayenne's the only one up here. And tell us how that happened.
So one thing I've noticed is very important to know what you don't want to do, as well as what you do want to do. So my sister, she built, a good many ribs with me, and they're very good. And she probably learned a lot, but she ended up learning that she doesn't want to do that. So she's focusing on other interests, and I think that's a very important thing.
So yeah, it is important to know what you don't want to do. So you're going to have to build this yourself. I'm sure Dad might help a little bit, but are you going to let her fly in it when you finish?
No, definitely not.
So she wants to sit on the plane. So there is one opening available here when that comes around. What are you finding? Obviously, the construction is going to take you a while. It is very obviously a lot more time consuming than the ventilator. But any idea how long this is going to take you?
Man, I've been asked that question so many times, and I still don't know.
Okay, still no answer. So you were having people help out there. What if we had a team and put it together? How long would it take us?
That depends on how dedicated they are.
There you go. Okay. And how good you are at that stuff. It's a lot of precision. Obviously, how many of you have flown in airplanes? In jet planes? Okay, most of us have. How many of you have flown in a plane other than a jet? Say a biplane or something? Okay. So, how many have flown with an open cockpit, the cockpit in? So to have your head to the wind, dude, you do everything. Bring the respirator while you're up there. So you can imagine what this is like. You're going to be 2 miles in the air, and you've got the wind blowing past you. So you've got to be really confident in your design. But there are thousands of these planes up in the air, so certainly that's going to happen. So artists only ask you, what else do you do besides think up inventions and make stuff?
Yeah, so other than my science fair project, I enjoy quite a few activities. So in school, I enjoy doing forensics, which is speech and debate, at Stockfield High School. But out of school, I really enjoy programming. That's a skill that I use for this ventilator to design software which allows it to be controlled over like Wi-Fi, as opposed to needing to be right next to this ventilator. Actually, I wanted to expand how coding is accessible in Kern County. So I've worked with the Kern County Science Foundation to help spread Kern Codes, which is their coding competition, which anybody from 5th through 12th grade can sign up for. So we'll pass those flyers around, I think. But you can also find them at the Kern Science table. Yeah.
So he's using our program here to pitch another program. So he's got some sales skills as well. I think that's important. So Cayenne, you've got to make use of the computer as well, as far as designs and print things out. Or are you using manuals?
I haven't used a computer for anything yet.
Okay. That's almost unheard of. Because why? Why haven't you?
I don't need to.
Okay. Just winging it. Yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
Wow. First time we ever heard an airplane joke like that, right?
I hear this on a daily basis, actually. But
Yeah. So, what have you found to be the hardest part of this? And obviously we've got a ways to go, because there's more pieces than this back home, right? Yeah. So Ken didn't load them all here in the truck, right? What's the hardest part? And then what's been the most satisfying part?
the hardest part in the process of building something like this, probably just making the time for it.
Because it's in addition to what your schoolwork and like real life and stuff that puts in there.
Yeah, you know, if you're struggling with something, you're trying to get multiple things done, then it's kind of hard. And it's important that you always, you know, that you try and touch the project at least, you know, once a day, which we don't do, you know, but that's always a good idea.
Harshal, what about you? What's been the toughest part of doing something like this, and then what's the most satisfying?
Yeah, so the most satisfying part is definitely seeing something working. So whether it be the software working all the way from your computer, which is like 10 feet away, connecting through the internet to a Raspberry Pi, which then can control this ventilator. That's one of the most satisfying parts, is just seeing it all come together and seeing your work pay off. The most frustrating parts are definitely when things don't work, when you need to spend hours like debugging, trying to find that single line of code which is causing a failure, or in the case of just assembling this ventilator, that's like if a part doesn't fit and then you need to wait another 5 to 10 hours for it to print out. Those are the frustrating bits for sure.
So let's talk about, you're both in high school age, and maybe you wind up making planes, maybe you wind up producing respirators and other medical equipment, but what kind of career goals at this point are you looking at, and how has this project assisted you in looking towards those?
Yeah, so this project has actually done a lot for me because the more you do stuff like this, the more people you meet, the more doors will open, the more opportunities. And it's really, really fun and really cool because I've met a lot of incredible people. So I'm sure that'll assist me in whatever job I want and career I want in the future, hopefully.
Yes, because you don't have to decide right now. Shoot, I still might be onto another career, you never know. You're always open to that. But yes, so interesting that meeting people and networking, I do seminars and stuff on that, and I have to tell you, you guys have had an amazing opportunity here today to meet a lot of people. I hope you make good connections out in these various booths, people who gave their time and are looking to create career opportunities for you and then build jobs for them. Let's face it, there's a big world out there that needs people. So let me ask you, Arshad, you as far as a career goal you might have at this point, and then how doing a project like this has played into that.
Yeah, so I definitely like to go to college and pursue a degree in like biomedical engineering. And then as a career, I'd love to go into the health sciences in some area and continue to produce devices such as this ventilator. And this has inspired me because it's really shown me like how much of an impact and how much medical devices are needed in order to improve the quality of life for people and to therefore create a better society.
Okay, let me ask you, and I want to put the audience on notice. If you've got questions, we're going to let you ask them. So prepare yourself. But Cayenne, what's along the way? And obviously you're both at a young age, you're going to get a whole lot more advice, some you might even want. But what's some of the best advice you've gotten at this point? Other than from your parents, I know you both have great parents. So let's say, other than your parents, who are supposed to give good advice, what's some of the best advice you have gotten, or guidance, or principles that you've learned as you work through this project?
I can't think of anything in particular right now, but generally, I've met tons of people who are pilots and who build airplanes, and they've all contributed to this process. It's just, it all melts together into one big, great experience.
Well, and the chapter connection we have is that her mentor in this project was the late, great Pete Plum. And Pete had a wing specialty shop out in Minterfield Airport, out in Shafter, and sadly died in November of 2020. And mentored Cayenne and her sister Lucy during that first part of the project. And actually was a builder himself. So as they found out we had this kind of area connection, we wound up getting to talk. But that's someone who I know who was influential for you as a great mentor, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you the same thing, Marcel. Outside of your folks, what kind of advice have you received that's been the best from others? And in mentioning a mentor for Cayenne, what about you? Have you had a person that you consider a mentor at this point?
Yeah, so in terms of my mentor, I actually got the chance to speak to multiple pulmonologists and other healthcare professionals who work with ventilators, particularly in the COVID-19 period, which has really helped me create a great user interface, which has a focus on being intuitive, so it's easy for them to understand and to use. And that's played a big role in that side of the project particularly. But also, in general, one of the biggest tips that I've received is to just keep working on it. And if you have a failure, then just build on it, understand what your mistake is, and try to prevent it from occurring in the future.
Good. All righty, who's got some questions out there? Oh, come on. Yes, sir. You in the cool glasses.
When did you start doing it?
That's a good question.
Okay, good, thank you. Ask you both. He asked, when did you start doing this?
Okay, I'll start. That was when I was 13, so 2 years ago.
Yeah, and so for me, I built a phase 1 ventilator from 2020 to 2021, and I've been working on this one since the end of the summer of 2021 until now.
else has a question? We could do a class and I could call on you. I used to do high school classes. Okay. The guy with upside down glasses in the front, because he said do it, right? I could hear it through your mask. See, that's the great of my experience. What, you're sitting here, what question pops in mind?
How old are you guys?
How long what?
I think he asked how old we are.
How me?
No,
How old are they?
15.
15?
I am 16.
There.
What about you?
More than that. A lot more than that.
He's 5.
I can collect Social Security 100%. So, yes, sir. Yeah, yes, Jesus.
As to, my question is just, what budget, what's their cost to date, and do they anticipate going over budget?
What is their budget and to date, and do they anticipate going over budget? Do you have a budget?
I'm going to let him answer first.
You what?
I'm going to let him answer first.
Okay.
What is the cost?
Yeah, so in terms of this unit here, just one of these units would cost around $500 to $700 to produce, and I'm working on decreasing that cost. However, in terms of actually over the years of acquiring 3D printers and other technologies in order to assemble this, that has been a greater cost, but 3D printers are commonly available, so that won't be a cost if we were actually mass producing this, which is great.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys gonna sell your projects for money?
Are they going to sell it? Well, yeah. Well, this, I don't know. This he might. He said you're going to sell these for money. So, entrepreneur, sales skills. I imagine you could when it's done.
I'm not sure if you're talking about my airplane in particular, or if you're talking about me making more airplanes in the future, but I have no idea. I'm hoping I'll keep this one for a while.
No. Sales, I would imagine that intrigues you, no?
Actually, I'm not going to sell this ventilator. What I'm going to do is once I put it through more testing, as well as through some clinical testing, I want to publish this design online, so that way it can be printed all over the world. And that way, currently areas which don't have access to ventilators, they can get access to ventilators, which is particularly, which is done by this design. This design is actually very power efficient because it uses the motor instead of directly driving like a pump. It uses these pistons here to compress air, which then be released, which makes it more efficient. And also, publishing this design would mean that in another case where we needed a lot of ventilators, like we saw earlier, we would be able to produce enough to fill the demand.
So he may wind up on the cover of a magazine someday like Cayenne did. So she's got magazines out front there with her. She's a cover girl right there. So you gotta check that out in the story. The story is on her and her family and the project. So with a few minutes left, let's ask. I'm going to ask these two as fellow students, fellow high schoolers. Do you have a question, sir? Okay.
What is your guys' favorite part about the project that you guys built?
What is their favorite part about the project?
That's a good question. That's really hard to say. Oh, actually, I think it's just the feeling you get when you make something and it works and it looks right. It's just, that's, the best thing ever. And I don't know, that's just kind of what I'm doing it for.
What about you, sir?
Yeah, and for me, apart from seeing it work, that's always a great feeling. I really love presenting it at science fairs. Recently, science fairs have had to be online. However, we're going back in person, so I get to go to the International Science Fair in Georgia. And the great thing about going to these science fairs is you get to view other students' projects from all over the world. And you really get to learn a lot there and get to talk to them. So that's another of my favorite parts.
By the way, this guy won the Kern County Science Fair. Okay, let me ask again the two of them. As fellow students, fellow young adults, kind kind of, all of you are looking to where you're gonna make your mark, what you're gonna do, and you've seen a lot here today. And obviously STEM it's not just the future, it's now. And it's something all of us need. But let me ask each of our inventors up here, give a good piece of advice to fellow young people, fellow students.
I would say, just, know that this kind of thing is possible. Somebody has to make airplanes, right? So, also, definitely pursue whatever you want, whatever your interest is. Please just go out there, meet as many people as possible in that area. You'd be surprised by how many doors could open for you. So that's my advice.
Yeah, and the same thing, like find what you love about science and go and pursue that area. You really do best at the things that you enjoy, and it keeps it fun throughout. Other than that, one of the things that really helps me is just writing down whenever you get an idea, no matter if it's crazy or not. It typically always adds something to my project later on, so that's always a great help too.
Well, you two are some of the most impressive young people I've ever met. So we've got Kyan Gutierrez, we've got Harsh Assault Product. Please give them a hand, would you?